Hello and welcome to Behind the Lines. I'm Diane Dayton. Today we're going to talk about a really important topic, and it's near and dear to my heart too. We're going to talk about Alzheimer's and dementia, which is the overarching of Alzheimer's. And with us right now, we're glad to have Jessie Rodriguez. You're the owner of West End Yoga Studio here in Lancaster, but you are also the community educator for the Alzheimer's Association Greater PA chapter, and you're also the chair for the walk that's coming up this fall.
Yes, hello. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, because there's so much information that we need to get out there about Alzheimer's, about the treatments that are available, how to look for the symptoms, how to help your body protect itself and your brain, and just statistics, which I know you have a lot of today.
Of course
too.
I do.
Of course you do. You are so prepared. That's great. I think one of the things that I thought was really interesting, it said worldwide, 55 million people are living with Alzheimer's and other dementias right now. That's like mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's something we don't really think about, but it's there, and over 7 million Americans are living right now with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia.
Yeah, also 1 in 3, I guess, pass from dementia, right?
So 1 in 3 older adults will die from it.
Yeah.
And it kills more people than prostate cancer and breast cancer combined.
I think we need to really think about that.
Yeah.
The numbers for breast cancer and prostate cancer, put that together. Alzheimer's kills more people than that.
And it's something that people don't talk about a lot. They don't think there's much that they can do. And I think it leads to a lot of embarrassment or perhaps just fear. But the truth is there is a lot of preventative care that we can do to slow down or possibly not have this disease take over. And there are many treatments on the path and things that have come through already.
Yeah, we have made some progress, haven't we?
Yes, absolutely.
And I know we haven't talked about on this show for a couple years or so. So I know there's some things that we can also talk about. So dementia is the overarching part. Alzheimer's, I think there's also Parkinson's under that as well.
Parkinson's is not a form of dementia,
Okay.
but another example would be Lewy body dementia.
Lewy body, okay. All right.
So there's others, but Alzheimer's is the most prevalent
Yeah.
form of dementia.
Yeah, okay. All right, so let's see what else we have. It's a degenerative brain disease.
Correct. So
Okay.
it will progress.
Right.
We don't know how or at what rate. That's very unpredictable. And because it can affect a human in any part of their brain, there's many, many, many different ways that it could pop up and show in emotion, memory loss, of course, but different types of memory.
Right.
So at early stage, sometimes it's hard to even be aware. Or you may say, oh, I wonder, and then you don't say anything to a loved one or what have you. So it's really important that when you start to notice symptoms, that we're just aware. We're having those conversations with our doctors, with our loved ones.
Right.
And that we know that there are a lot of resources through the Alzheimer's Association available to help find care. Lots. There's so many different ways to help.
Okay. What are some of those ways?
Well, if you go to alzheimers.org, you can go through and search for resources locally. So whether that's care for your caregivers, okay?
That's important too.
It's extremely important. Caregivers are unpaid, and often they have an emotional bond with the person who's suffering with the Alzheimer's disease. So it affects at a different level when you're talking about personal memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, we also have different types of care with finances. Maybe you need to move someone.
Yeah.
You don't even know how to pick up. You have a job and your loved one's suffering, but you need to move them. They will help you find anything that you need for that.
Yeah, that is key. Something I thought was staggering too. We're talking about under 45 years of age.
Okay.
Being diagnosed for that. It's like 1 in 5 women, 1 in 10 men.
So that's their lifetime risk for having the disease,
Okay.
lifetime. So the older we get, the higher the risk will become. But as soon as we turn 45, then our risk is that during our lifetime, 1 in 5 women will.
Wow.
And then as we age, 1 in 3 older adults will
Wow.
have the disease. Women are definitely higher risk factor than men.
Why?
Well, women live longer than men.
Okay.
So that's a big part of it. And there are many risk factors. But the good news is that there are things that we can do that will lower our risks that are controllable within our way. There's lots of brain health education out there through the association. That's what I do, is go and deliver this education.
Oh, wow, okay.
And they're things that we normally think of as a part of being healthy, but we're realizing that the impact that it has on our heart, on the rest of our body, really impacts our brain.
Yeah. So when we talk about brain health, how do we keep our brains healthy? I know you got to eat right, you exercise and that sort of thing, but you want to keep your brain engaged too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that one thing that you can really do, especially as we're aging or if we're noticing some signs, is some cognitive exercises. Puzzles, learning new things is a huge help.
Yeah,
staying social. But then the pieces that I love that get mixed together, where you're incorporating movement with solving or learning something, like taking a yoga class or like dancing, music. Our brains they have so many neurons just cross over. So we want to just keep them very active.
Yeah. So you brought up yoga. Let's talk about that. Of course. So how does yoga help with this?
Well, yoga is a beautiful way to manage stress, to get the movement, exercise, to focus in and just take a moment to mix mind and body. There's breath work. And I think that if someone has a good yoga practice, then they can incorporate and work on things like balance, muscle memory, all of those pieces.
Okay. Wow, there's so many things to think about. Sleeping well is really a key.
That is one of the key parts with the brain health. That education that we have is huge. And we love to go out, that's what I do, and we'll go and visit different businesses, employees, faith groups to offer these education sessions, really getting out there to fight the stigma and engage with that. But when you talk about sleep health, we end up spending most of our lives trying to catch up on sleep before we retire. So it is important. Yep.
It is important. So how do we get better quality sleep? What would you suggest, Jessie? I mean, going to bed at a regular time?
I think it is as simple as getting yourself on a regular schedule for trying to get your 8 hours of sleep. And that's going to vary from person to person. But when we make it a priority, then we'll be able to have that as a part of our lifestyle.
Sleeping well, controlling blood pressure. How much does that play in with this?
Well, that's heart health. And when we think about heart health, we think about the oxygen in our body. We think about what goes to our brain. We need all of that in our brain. So when we're having heart problems, it is possible that that could be associated with the Alzheimer's disease progression or perhaps chances of occurring it. But with blood pressure, that's also a clear biomarker, perhaps as to something else that may be going on in the body. We talk about eating right, exercising, managing stress and sleeping, and we all know that when one of these are off where they should be for our individual bodies, it'll affect our blood pressure.
It's also talking about smoke-free, so don't smoke.
Well, that'll affect the amount of oxygen levels in your blood.
And then there was one on here too about managing and protecting your head.
Yes. So we are talking about Alzheimer's as a form of dementia, but oftentimes a head injury could affect someone and cause dementia. So make sure we're wearing our helmets, making sure that we're aware if we perhaps think we may have had a concussion and we're getting our care from our medical provider.
Healthy weight. How much does weight play into all of this?
Well, weight affects our blood pressure. It affects the nutrients, perhaps, that are being absorbed into our body. It affects our cardiovascular system, everything. It could affect how we're sleeping. So that's something that we want to really maintain and be aware of as another biomarker
Yeah.
for a healthy brain.
Yeah, right, right. So we already talked about, challenging your mind and staying in school and that sort of thing too. When we talk about healthy eating, that's, I guess, those things, more organic or natural foods and not processed foods and that sort of thing. Is that what we're talking about?
We're really talking about nutrients. So we have our macronutrients and our micronutrients. We get our carbohydrates, our protein, we're getting our vegetables, our fruits, we're getting all those lovely things and our fats, but are we getting the right amounts of everything that we need?
Okay.
And quite often, if we're not eating a diet that is prioritizing that, it's easy to miss those.
Okay.
And for a healthy brain, there's definitely lots of research that's shown that those micronutrients and some of those healthy fats, good protein sources, are going to help the brain and increase its plasticity and its ability to regenerate and heal.
Okay, that sounds good. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to expound a little bit on that and also talk about some of the symptoms. So stay with us.
You're watching Lancaster Community TV, LCTV 66.
Welcome back to Behind the Lines. We're talking about Alzheimer's, and we are with Jesse Rodriguez. Thank you so much again for being here and giving us all of this information. There is a stigma with this that we have to get over, isn't it?
Yep, and that's why I love being a community educator, because I get to get out there and talk in usually medium, small-sized groups is what I prefer, about their experiences, share a lot of education, but then we talk about the stigma. And if the stigma is broken down, we'll get earlier detection.
Okay.
Yeah.
And getting earlier detection is key because what happens then?
Well, it progresses. So the earlier you can catch this and get a diagnosis, you can go ahead and then be treated. And there are drugs out there that can slow this down.
And that's what my question is. There are drugs that can help to slow the progression?
Always in research right now, we're working on, we do have an FDA approved drugs that are in the system that will help treat, slow down, possibly prevent it from getting worse as well.
Okay.
So knowing is a huge thing. You would go to your primary care doctor, explain some of the symptoms you may have been experiencing or someone's telling you that you're experiencing, your loved one, and then they would send you away and have you have a test. And then after that, you would then be sent to a neurologist for further review and a diagnosis.
Okay, and that's how that goes. So some of those early signs and symptoms, memory loss, but it's memory loss that really disturbs your everyday life, isn't it?
Yes. Yep. So a good example would be you cannot find your keys, so you go to look for them, but you can't retrace your steps. So that's often one. Perhaps you forget where something is when you're going out to lunch to meet friends, and you forget where the restaurant is.
Right.
Some of those. And for some people, it may pop up once in a while, be just a fluke.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's happening more consistently. And that's when you really need to say, something might not be right here.
Yeah. Okay. Challenges in planning or solving problems.
If you're noticing that things that you used to do or plan perhaps came easier and now it's taking a lot longer, you're having difficulty putting the pieces together to solve problems or work out something, being aware of how your brain has shifted in that type of a situation is huge.
Okay. Difficulty completing what was a familiar task.
Yeah. You may see this perhaps when you're doing math problems.
Okay.
That's probably a really good, you sit down to pay the bills monthly or go through, and you're just having difficulty, you're coming up with the wrong numbers or you're forgetting a step.
Okay. Confusion with time or place, how does that manifest?
That could manifest as perhaps you look at the clock and it's definitely not the time that you thought it was.
Right.
Or even place. If you're with your loved one and, if your partner says, oh, I thought we were all the way on the other side of the city, those kind of things.
Okay.
The disease really hits the brain in so many different angles.
Okay.
So watching how things are shifting slightly is going to be huge.
Yes, yes. Trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships.
So usually this will pop up perhaps in some of the testing that they do.
Okay.
If you're looking at an object, can you define or give the name of what that object is? And perhaps it's something that you've known or seen a lot
Yes.
in your life.
Yeah.
Could be a photo of a pet, could be just flashcards. And then you're just noticing that you're not recalling what something is called.
Okay.
That's a big part.
Okay. New problems with words in speaking and in writing.
Yeah. This disease, it can affect folks that are also, getting younger more and more.
Right.
So if you're someone that usually is very great with having conversations or putting together emails or writing, and then you're noticing over and over you're having more and more problems remembering a word to put in there, completing your sentences.
Okay.
That could be another flag.
Okay. Misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace those steps.
This is the one that I mentioned earlier that I think is the one that I like to give in my education groups.
Right.
It's the most important, because this is one that usually pops up for people.
Yes.
It's your everyday life.
Right.
It's also one that people hide a lot. They don't want to admit that they keep forgetting where they're putting things to perhaps their family or their coworkers or their partner, because there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of stigma.
Yes, and that's what we
Yeah.
want to dispel. Withdrawal from work and social activities. I guess isolation more?
Yeah, if we had a woman in a session once share that her friend began isolating. Well, the friend group would meet once a month for lunch, and she just stopped coming.
Oh, wow.
And I said, that is a sign that you want to check in with that person. Person was over 65 years of age, and here she had been forgetting how to drive to the restaurant. And she was a little scared and ashamed, perhaps embarrassed. The stigma came up. But those are the things that we want to look out for in our loved ones.
Yeah, we need to be aware.
Yeah,
Be
if
aware
someone
of all
starts
this.
to isolate, hey, what's going on? Check in.
This is a big one. Changes in mood and personality.
It kind of, I think, could be a little surprising that that's how the disease may affect someone. But you may see some changes in perhaps reactions.
Yeah.
Might see some more anger
Yes.
erupting and things like that.
Yes.
And it could be caught a little bit off guard. And I think that that's another part of where our caregivers really have to have support.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're talking about doing these educational times, how do we find out about that? Where do we go, and what's involved with that?
Yeah, so you can go to alzheimers.org and look for local resources and just reach out to our association. We're the Greater Pennsylvania chapter.
Okay.
And then you'll be connected with someone in our association who then just say, hey, I'd love to have an education session.
Yeah.
We can do them virtually as well.
Okay.
But as soon as you put that request in, you can also get in touch directly with me.
Okay.
Sometimes I reach out to places
Okay.
locally too. It's
Okay.
pretty easy
All
to
right.
set that up.
Well, good.
Yeah, it's really fun.
All right. One of the things that happens in the fall that is a big awareness thing, and it's also a great fundraiser, it's the Alzheimer's Walk. So it's always in the fall. So what's involved with that? I guess it's teams, right? You put together teams?
Oh,
and
it's so
raise
beautiful.
money?
Yep, so you register for the walk. Registration is free. And you can create a team for your faith group, for your business, for your work, or for your friends and family.
Right.
Or just show up, register. And we do fundraising beforehand, and all of that goes to support the research and all of the resources the Alzheimer's Association offers.
Okay.
And then we have this beautiful morning.
Yes,
It
you
is
do.
so beautiful. We have a flower garden where each flower represents a different way people are affected by the disease.
Right.
We also have live music, and then we take a walk. And people honor loved ones that are with us or have passed. People honor the work that others do, and just come together and support. It's really lovely.
That's what it's about, coming together and sharing those stories too, and being a part of it. I was a part of that as well. And it's eye-opening too, because you see different people with loved ones in different stages at this walk.
Yes.
And that's what's really important, to share those stories. Wouldn't you agree?
I would 100% agree. And I was advocating in Harrisburg a few weeks ago, and there was a young man advocating with me, and he was really super. And I said, well, how are you related to the cause? And he said, well, I'm living with Alzheimer's.
Wow, yeah.
And it was just, the stories
Yeah.
are what they are. And
Right.
we need to share those stories
Right.
more.
And the fact that he was living with it, it wasn't anything that there was obvious to you when you talked to him, right? See, that's the thing too.
No,
Right?
nothing. Yeah. And it's just, we are here to support each other. And when we look at how to build healthy lifestyles, what to do to get early detection, I think the other key piece is supporting one another, not being afraid to talk about what
Right.
things we're noticing, ask if we need help,
Right.
and reach out.
Yes.
We do have a 1-800 number as well.
Okay.
And that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in 52 languages.
Oh, wow.
So you could call at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
and say that there is something happening with your loved one and you're not sure what to do, and they will be there to walk you through it.
Wow, that's great. So there are support groups and support assistants.
Yes, we have not only these education sessions, but we do have caregiver support groups locally
Yeah.
that you can get some more information on and join.
Yeah. And I think that's key too, because when you get together with other people who are going through the same thing, you can share maybe what's working or not, and get information to really help you on
Yeah.
your journey.
And there's something knowing that you're not alone.
Oh, yeah.
It adds a layer of hope. It can help just buffer it is really tough disease that we're fighting and we're making great strides on.
Yeah.
And we just want more people to be there with us, to know that they're not alone,
Right.
to continue.
Absolutely. So any final thought that you would like to give to us? We've covered so much today, haven't we?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really have. I think the most important thing that I would give and offer is to talk about it more with others.
Yep.
Be aware, don't be afraid to ask for help. That is key. And come to walk,
Yeah.
come and join, go to an education session.
Right.
Know what's going on.
Yep.
Be informed.
Right. We can make a difference.
Yes.
Supporting each other, supporting the cause, being aware, and staying connected.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Jessie.
Thank you so much for learning about all this with us and
Yeah.
everything that you offer and share with our community as well.
Thank you, Jessie.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. You know, we can make a difference. I'm Diane Dayton with Behind the Lines, reminding you to look behind the lines. You might be surprised what you find.